there's different ways of thinking about slope. One is just when you find the formula for slope, and slope is an M, that means slope, and it's y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. If you go in books, you'll see that the y2 is first and the x2 is first, but I think it's easier for you guys if you go left to right from point to point, and it doesn't really matter which one you use. The other thing that people think about when they think about slope is rise over run. And when you think about a graph, the rise is the y-axis, so it's the y's are in the numerator, and the x is the run. You run on flat land, so there's the x. Rise over run would be the difference of the y's over the difference of the x's. The reason there's a monkey on my little graph is because this is how I remember when it's going to be negative slope and when it's going to be positive slope, okay? If you have a line on a graph, and let's put red on here, and it's right here like this, this is going to be a negative slope because the little mouse on the left side of the, you have to put the mouse on the left side or you're going to have the wrong answer. But the little mouse on the left side of the graph can't jump up on there. It's like they're going to be hit by an avalanche. They're underneath a cave. They can't go skiing or anything like that, right? So that would be a negative slope. And I always look at a graph and I know it's negative. I make sure that my answer is negative, because that's the biggest mistake made, is that people forget to put the sign on there. And then if you have a line like this, that would be a positive slope, because the little mouse could climb up on the ski slope and have a nice skiing day right there. You see it? And then we have two other types of slope, and that is if you have a horizontal line or we have a vertical line. All right, so when I think of this line here, I think of it as a cliff. Everybody see that? And I really cannot build a house there. And I wouldn't ski on that cliff because it won't end well for you, right? So the green line here is what we called an undefined slope.
Oh, yeah.
The yellow one that I'm drawing here is a flat horizontal. So you can't ski on that either unless you have a Jeep and a rope, right? But you can build a house on it. And when I have a house, let's say in Kansas, it's really flat land. I don't know if you've been out there, but it's just flat as far as you can see. Iowa too. That would be a zero slope. I have no slope in my yard, but I can still build a house. Now let's see why that is. So far we have a negative slope if it's going from the top left to the bottom right. We have a positive slope if it's going from the bottom left to the top right. We have zero slope if it's a flat line. And then we have undefined slope if it's a cliff, okay? Let's see why. I'm going to put some points on the green line. This would be -3, 0. This would be -3, 1. And this would be -3, 2. What do you notice about all those points?
You're going up by 1.
Well, what do you notice about one of the numbers in all those points? So it's -3, and each one of those points, -3 is in the beginning. So is that the X or the Y? The first letter, X. So the equation of this green line is going to be X equals -3. So no matter where you go on that line, X is going to equal -3. It doesn't matter what Y is, X is -3. So whenever you see X equals a number, you know it's undefined slope. You got that? Now this one, if I were to write, put some points on here, this would be 0, 4. And this over here would be 3, 4. So what do you see is the same on all the points of the yellow line?
The y is 4.
The y is 4, so the equation of this line would be y equals 4. Whenever you see y equals a number, it's going to be 0 slope, okay? Now let's go with the green one first. I'm going to pick 2 points off of the green one, and that's going to be -3, 2 and -3, 1. When I find the slope, it's difference of the y's over difference of the x's, and that's going to be 1/0. 0 in the basement or in the denominator is a no-no in math. You can never have 0 in the basement. If you were to put this problem in your calculator, it would be like cannot divide by 0. You would get an error message. Whenever you get that error message, it's undefined slope, okay? Because a 0 in the denominator is undefined. Now let's look at the yellow one. We have 0, 4 and 3, 4. Well, it's difference of the y's, 4 minus 4 over 0 minus 3, which is 0 over -3. When you have a 0 upstairs, that is 0. And you can put it in your calculator if you ever get confused on this. And that's why the yellow line has a slope of 0. So the red arrows mean if you're going down or left at any time, that's a negative direction. And if you think of graphing, when you go to the left from 0, 0, you're at a negative number. And when you go down from 0, 0, you're at a negative number. If you go up and right, it's going to be a positive number, just like when you're graphing points. So I'm going to pick 2 points. I'm going to pick these 2 right here. And I'm going to be dramatic and pick the 2 furthest points. When you're doing this, pick 2 closer. But you have to pick points that hit on an intersection so you can count correctly. Because if something hits in the middle of an intersection, like this one right here, you can't use it because you don't know what the coordinates are, okay? So, there's 2 ways to get from one point to the other by traveling on just roads, okay? You can't go across yards. So you could go this way. You can go up 6, right? And left 3. Everybody see what you did? So that would be +6 and -3, because left is negative. Got it? So it's rise, the 6 is the rise, and the -3 is the run. So your slope is going to be -2, and if you put -2 over 1, that's also okay. Either one is good. Now that's how one of you wanted to do it, but another one wanted to go this way. From this point, they wanted to go down 6 and over 3. So the down 6 would be a -6. Right 3 would be +3. It would be -6 over +3, which is -2 over 1, which is still -2. Either way, you get the same answer. Doesn't matter which way you go. Now, I also remember that poor monkey, and he's not going to be able to ski on this mountain because it's going to be like over his head, right? He can't even get up on a ski lift underneath that mountain. So I know it's going to be negative when I look at that graph, and I make sure I get a negative number. If not, I go check what I did wrong.
Remember that? 'Cause Miss O-
So y equals mx plus b is the slope intercept form. And slope is this guy. And the y-intercept, which we're not really talking about today, is the b, okay? So when it's in this format and they ask you what the slope is, all you're going to do is give me the number that's hanging on to the x. Okay, so if I have y equals negative 2/3 x plus 7, what's the slope? The slope is negative 2/3. If I have y equals x minus 8, somebody else, what's the slope? Good, it's 1, because there is an understood 1 in front of that x. If I get y equals 7, what's the slope? If it's y equals a number, the slope is 0, because technically this is the same as y equals 0x plus 7, right? And then the harder one is if it's x equals a number, let's say it's x equals negative 2, your slope is what? What's the other slope? So the slope is undefined.